It's time to talk about the Fresh Air pack coming from the Nike line. There are 5 sneakers in it, and that's just way too much to review in one video. There are these right here. That's the Daybreaks, a very simple looking shoe. Not much catching my attention there, so no, not making it into this video today. There's the Air Force One Pixels, and they're not making it into the video today, although the Air Force One Standard is getting in there. And then there's also the Vapor Max Plus, and those guys didn't make it in either. And to be honest, I'm not sure which of them are actually in the Fresh Air pack, because they've got so much going on in them that is different, and they don't actually have the major piece of fresh branding in there that today's 2 shoes have, which we're talking about is the Air Force One Standard, not Pixel, and then the Air Max 90s, because those 2 have the special fresh branding in there, and they're the 2 that really jump out from the pack for me. So they're the 2 we're going to focus in from. We're not going to go with the Daybreaks, the Pixels, or the Vapor Max Pluses, but the Air Force Ones and the Air Max 90s, and they're great shoes. There's a lot to talk about. There's 2 major signature details that we're going to get into, and that's the gradient that runs from a kind of deep orange, almost red, through to yellow. So that gradient color plays a big role in these shoes, and then that tartan, the black and white plaid, I think some people call it out there, is a major feature as well. So we'll look out for both of those and some of the details on the materials and the special places that the branding is unique on both shoes as we take a close-up look at the upcoming release of the Nike Air Force One and the Nike Air Max 90 Fresh Air. This is the Tokyo Butter 23 Sneaker Channel. Tokyo Butter 23 Sneaker Channel it is.毎日アップするので、毎日見てください. And every single day from Tokyo, Japan, I bring you content about upcoming sneaker releases, sneaker news, and sneaker reviews. And in the spotlight today is the upcoming release on May the 18th of the Fresh Air pack, and we're taking 2 shoes out of that I think are worth looking at. And hopefully behind me here on the green screen you'll be able to see the thumbnail that I put together for these guys, where I tried to hybrid an Air Force One into an Air Max 90 and put those 2 together. I think I did a pretty good job on that, and that's all it is today. Like I said, the other 3 shoes in this pack, or at least there's 3 more shoes. There's 3 that I know about, but usually when I do these videos about packs this far ahead of the drop date, there are actually more shoes that come out later on. I remember there was a huge pack of Chinese New Year shoes that came out. I think it was 2 years ago. The Jordan 12s with a big shoe in it, but there was a huge pack, and I tried to cover all like 12 or 13 shoes, and even then there were still some that came out closer to the drop date that I didn't know about. And so it might be the same here. I'm saying 5 shoes, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's 6, 7, 8 that come out that after I've shot this video. But the 2 that we're going to focus on are definitely coming. That's the Air Max 90 and the Air Force Ones. And it's the gradient color from deep orange to yellow and the tartan or plaid, whichever way you want to call it. That are the 2 things that we really want to focus in on. Some of those things are very similar between the 2 shoes, and some of them are completely different. So let's take a look at that. And I think what we'll do is we'll start up high and work our way down on both shoes. So let's go for it on the tongues on these guys, because that's a place that's very, very similar on both shoes. That they're basically the tongue branding at the top of the tongues in that black and white plaid tartan check effect on there, and that's a match in both of the shoes. And right underneath that is that bit of branding I was talking about that says Fresh, and I think it's black writing on gold, if I remember correctly, hanging just below the branding panel on the tongues. And it's kind of a unique place to put the branding. Often you'd see a little tag like that on the side of a shoe or hanging off of the swoosh or something like that, but having it hanging off the bottom of the lacing, the tongue branding, is kind of unique there. And speaking of the laces, or making the mistake to speak of the laces, that's an interesting place to go on the Air Max 90s, because they have matching tartan laces that go together with that tongue branding. But when you go over to the Air Force One, they don't. And what I don't know is whether the Air Force Ones and the Air Max 90s come with multiple laces. It might be that the Air Max 90s come with white laces as well as the tartan ones that you can see here, and it might be that the Air Force Ones come with tartan laces as well as the white ones that we can see here. So I'm not all that sure about that. I would hope so. I'd hope that that would be a consistent theme, and it's one of the main consistent areas between the 2 shoes is the tartan up on the tongue and that fresh below it. So I think that the laces also will be consistent between the 2 as well. Now, staying on that, I want to get into the other main consistent feature, and it works out kind of by being up high and working your way down, and that's about the gradient of that orange through yellow on the edge of the leather, and it's really hard to explain what I mean. And I've tried this before in other videos where the edge of the leather has been the point where the feature is, and it's really difficult to explain. Now you'll be able to see on the pictures behind me here, especially the Air Max 90s have just one place where it's the lowest leather panel on the top edge that has that kind of gradient feel of yellow and orange on it. And then if we go over to the Air Force Ones, you can see more leather edges have that effect on there. And what I'm talking about is if this is the panel, let's go with the mid-foot panel. I'm talking about on this edge of the leather. I'm not talking about on the edge around here, flush to the shoe. I'm talking about it's like the edge of the leather. I've got no way of explaining it better than just to show you on the green screen here, but it's a major feature of both of these shoes, and it's one of the reasons why I didn't look at the other shoes, because they don't have that kind of feature. They don't have the tartan up the tongues, for example, and they also don't have that gradient feel on the edge of the leather, and it is very prominent on both the Air Force Ones and the Air Max 90s that I'm showing you today. Now this is where we can start flipping it out and looking at differences though, and I think what we'll probably start with is the Air Max 90 swoosh, because that does keep the gradient color from orange through yellow on there, and it's got a full-on pop in it, and on top of that it has a patent feel. Now I don't know if I want to go as far as to say patent leather. It's definitely got a sheen, a glossiness about it, but I doubt if it's leather. It might be some kind of plastic, but you can see that kind of gradient color running through there and that patent feel about it. And then if we flip that out over to the Air Force Ones, you can see the same patent effect going on there, but now we've got an all black swoosh and there's no coloring in it at all. So one connection between the swooshes of the two shoes is their kind of glossy feel, but a departure is that they're black on the Air Force Ones, and then the gradient coloring that you get on the Air Max 90s. And speaking of that, that's a great place to look at the heels for these guys, and we'll go to the Air Max 90s first with that very unique, and I can't think of the word that would go for it, but when you see it, you know it's an Air Max 90. There's no other shoe that has heel branding like this, and it kind of surprised me that there's no gradient in the color on there. I was expecting to see something either from one shoe to the other, or within the branding on one shoe seeing that gradient from orange to yellow, but you don't see that on the Air Max 90s, and it's even more surprising because when you flip it over to the Air Force Ones, you do see that gradient branding there, and you're kind of wondering, well, why didn't you do it on that iconic Air Max 90 branding on the back there? That would have been a great place to bring in that color. And then I think what we can do is we can go into the insoles before we go anywhere else, because we kind of suppose it makes sense that that's the next drop, the next level on the shoes, and we'll have a look into the insoles. And I think I'm right in saying that they're very similar on both shoes, and you get the same kind of coloring going on there and the same kind of branding on both insoles. And then I want to get into the outsoles, especially on the Air Max 90s, because they have a really clever outsole. I was expecting a lot more color in here. I was expecting, from the side you can see the yellows poking out and the oranges poking out of the black outsole, but then when you flip them upside down, it's like, wow, there really isn't much more going on. I was expecting big chunks of orange and yellow down there, but it's just almost completely black with just a nudge of yellow and a nudge of orange in there, not very much more. And then over back to the Air Force Ones, you can see it's all white going on down there. Now I talked about this in a video recently which I did for the Air Force One Aquamarines, they were called, and they had the white midsole branding on the white midsole. And then if we have a look at today's, you'll see that it's a little bit different. I think I'm right in saying that this is one place where you get the gradient on the Air Force Ones that you don't get on the Air Max 90s, and you can see that gradient. I hope I've got it right. If I've got it wrong, I apologize, but you'll be able to see it in the picture anyway. But that air with the line that runs around on the midsole, it's very important as far as Air Force Ones go, because there's always a sort of question as to whether or not that branding matches the insole or contrasts with the insole, not the insole, the midsole. And the case of today's shoe is that I think I'm right in saying that there's contrast there, and you see that gradient color running around the black around the back of the shoe. And I think that's pretty much it for these guys today. That brings to a close the two shoes in the pack that I really wanted to look at. Hopefully you'll agree with me that these are the two to really go ahead and have a look at. They stand out much more than any of the other shoes in the pack, and they really do have a lot of pop and a lot of details on them, where the other shoes are kind of simple, if you ask me. So hopefully you appreciate that. Hopefully it gave you an idea of what to look for in this pack and which shoes to take a close-up look at and decide whether or not you want to grab a pair for yourself. For now though, it's time for me just to wrap this video up. 2 shoes in 1 video. Hopefully you're feeling like you got your money's worth today. And I just appreciate, enjoy being able to do this for you guys out there, and hopefully you enjoy watching the videos and the content. And I keep churning it out on a daily basis. And because I do it on a daily basis, I get to say the same thing at the end of every single video, which is that you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.